With Dan Heng being revealed and more things being discovered with his kit, it's pretty apparent that damn, this was not the final support people were expecting, everything but, which is a feels bad or good moment depending on who you are. Hello everyone, it's me, you, and today I want to talk about Dan Heng because his kit actually has so many unique interactions that my previous video just did not do it justice. But I also want to talk about his issues with Phainon currently and how they could in theory be resolved. Now I first need to give a quick summary of what he does just in case to get everyone on the same page. Dan Heng first and foremost is a shielder, which is provided by the skill, ult, and also follow dragon. His dragon summon can attack at times for 80% of the allies' attack to all enemies. Now, he also provides a 15% attack buff to his bonded ally, which generally results in a 500 to 600 attack increase. At E0S0 in a vacuum, his kit sounds good, decent buffs and damage, and he has a very strong shield, putting him in my 0.5 tier in my previous video. Nothing too special at first glance. But then, you take a closer look at the follow-up attack and realize, wow, there is a lot of implications the summon has. Not only is it considered as the ally summon, it also counts as if the ally is attacking, which means it can proc certain relics, light cones, eidolons, and even talents. Now, I'm thinking, damn, he's actually very strong, perhaps even tier 0, but not because of his overall kit, but instead because how the summon works and the interactions it enables. These interactions are pretty huge for other characters like Anaxa or Kafka, but when you look at Phainon, it doesn't work. This next section will go over his interactions with Phainon and how they could be improved. But if you just want to know all the cool interactions I could think of, then you can skip to the tier list section with all the funny stuff that Dan Heng enables. With that said, let's move on to Phainon. First, let's go over the situation and issues. As of now, the only way Dan Heng can give Phainon core flames is via his skill. This is because his ult is an attack, so it doesn't target Phainon. And when the dragon provides a team-wide shield, it doesn't give a stack, which sucks. This in turn makes him more SP negative if you want him to generate stacks. Moving on, when Phainon transforms, because the dragon is Phainon's now, it's sent alongside of him to fight, which is great. However, an issue that arises is that this dragon only has a trigger of 2 attacks, with it going up to 4 with E2. But at E0, when playing with Phainon, you're usually gonna get 2 dragon attacks and then 2 shields via his talent, which isn't too helpful for Phainon in his form because he's already self-sustaining. While this isn't the biggest deal, it's just something I've noticed. So as of now, while Dan Heng would still be Phainon's best in slot sustain, you still would want to use a sustainless comp until the endgame gets harder. Now, not only is he missing out on some synergy with Phainon, he also doesn't really work well with Seredra. When the dragon attacks, because it's considered a follow-up attack, it doesn't give any charge towards her skill, which is just another feels bad moment. With all this said, these issues don't mean Dan Heng is bad. It's just that he's not really helping Phainon's team reach its full potential, like what Evernight does with casters. As such, I want to go over some potential changes that could make him function better in a Phainon team, thus making him more valuable than running a sustainless comp. The first is regarding the shield dragon, when Dan Heng doesn't ult, which as we know, currently does not provide a stack. As for the reason, while I did as much digging as I could, I'm still not 100% certain as people still have different answers. My best assumption is that the ability must be casted by the user, aka when the blue circles are present. Whether or not the ability is AoE, it shouldn't matter. The best evidence to prove this idea is with Luocha's emergency skill. This skill in theory should grant Phainon a stack, but nope. However, when we look at something like Seredra's technique, which does something very similar, it does give Phainon a stack. So what gives? Now, I don't know the coding stuff, but just going off of the words, we can see that it states, cast the skill on the unit, while Luocha says, an effect equal to the skill will be applied to the ally. With this knowledge, we can start fixing up Phainon's kit. It seems even if Dan Heng were to provide another buff or energy, what matters most is how he applies it. Do it wrong and no core flame. So without changing too much, we can have it so, when Soul Dragon acts, instead of saying dispels 1 debuff from all allies and provides a shield, literally just change it so, when Soul Dragon takes action, Dan Heng recasts his skill on his allies. thus be similar to Serege's wording, and in theory, granting stacks. Of course, this would mean you're getting Omega Shield, because the skill shield is double the size of the talents, so we could just slightly reduce both of the multipliers and just average it out. Easy peasy. Moving on, the next thing is to make the dragon attack give Phainon Scourge stacks. As of now, I'm going with the assumption that when the dragon attacks, it's considered the wearer attacking. It's because of this, stuff like Valor's can work, as the dragon should count as the wearer attacking with a follow-up. Now, pulling a version 3 Threadra, when Dan Heng is in the departed state, make the dragon also count as a basic attack. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this would work, as I don't know whether it's Phainon's basic providing the Scourge, or simply when Phainon is casting a basic. Unlike Anaxa's talent, which states when the wearer uses a basic or skill, Phainon's basic in particular has the Scourge generation. Now, to further explain what I mean, it seems as of now, using Shui Yi, this new follow-up attack takes the properties or at least a stipulation of her talent. This makes it so the toughness damage provided by the dragon does not give Shui Yi stacks. Now, whether or not this is intentional, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, back to my point, if this change was implemented, it would give Phainon 1 extra meatball, or 2 at E2. This way, at E0, it still would be impactful, even if there are 2 useless shield dragons. Now, if this doesn't work for Phainon, it would at least work with Seredra and her stacks, as a basic attack would trigger its requirements. Now, you may have noticed, I mentioned when Dan Heng is in the departed state. Well, it's because of people like Anaxa we can't have nice things in life. Because if the dragon attack was considered a basic or skill normally, this would in turn make Anaxa cast an extra skill every time it attacked, which would be pretty crazy, especially at E2. And I'ma be honest, I gotta maintain the agenda, okay? I can't let my goat getting one-upped by a feeble scholar. Hell, I'd go as far as to say, Dromas aren't even that cute. Ow! Thank God I got Castrus's global passive. With all that said, we can finally get into the funny interactions that Dan Heng enables. Now, in my previous video, I was simply thinking of any hypercarry who could benefit from Sunday's full skill, but clearly I wasn't looking deep enough, so let's fix my list by having 2 lists. By the way, I will simply go over the things that are impacted by version 2, and not what I talked about in the video. That said, let's go over my non-character tier list first. Starting off the list, we have Before Dawn and Swordplay. Now, because Before Dawn only works with 1 follow-up before needing another Somnus Corpus stack, this means Dan Heng's follow-up attack could steal this damage bonus away. Now, as for Swordplay, though I'm not certain as no hunt characters have ever had an AoE attack, I would have to assume this resets the stack count as the dragon is AoE. You know, again, just want to mention, I'm not certain and just going off the wording. Next, we have the Technically Works, which I've put for things that the dragon could in theory apply effects for, which probably won't happen as you should not be buffing these characters. Here, we first have these 3 Nihility Lycones, Pearls, Holiday Escapade, and Cypher Signature, each which would apply debuff when the dragon attacks. But again, we should not be bonding these allies. Following this logic though, we also have Aventuring's Lycone. Next up is Memories of the Past, Conger's, Triby's, and Luocha's Lycone, each which grants energy when the wearer launches a follow-up attack or normal attack respectively. Again, should not be bonded to these characters, but hey, it's a thing. Just gonna quickly throw Return to Darkness in there too, cause it could work. Now for the rest of the Technically Works, it's just all things which characters could use because of the follow-up nature of the dragon. This would be Dr. Ratio's Lycone, the Erudition and Hunt Battle Pass Lycones, and also Past Self and Mirror. Following this logic, I will now put the first relic of the list, that being Inert Salsodo, which would benefit the dragon. Moving to our next section, we have the kinda use, which is for the kinda niche stuff. This would be Fei Xiao's Lycone and the Valor set, each which would benefit an ult after a follow-up attack. Again, not too practical, but hey, it's an option. To finish off the kinda use section, I've put Pain, as the dragon would apply the dot stacks, and the Duran set, which could help build stacks faster. Finally, we have the fully abused section, things that greatly benefit the user from the attack or outright enable new options. The first in this tier has to be Tutorial, with each dragon attack now proccing the light cone. While there's probably many interactions that it has with our Nihility characters, the most obvious one has to be with Kafka, letting her one turn ult consistently without any shenanigans. Next, we got Acheron's light cone, which will allow the dragon to implant a debuff, increasing stack generation. Next is Topaz's light cone, letting her implant tame stacks on multiple enemies without having to switch targets. Moving on, we got our relics, with the first one being the obvious banana planer. Here, any character can get the full effect for a total of 48 crit damage, aka 32% attack or damage bonus. While it's nothing game breaking, it lets characters who don't have decent planers get a very nice stat stick. The next one is, funnily enough, the Duke set. Now, because of how Dan Heng's dragon is a multi-hit on AoE, you should be able to get the full attack buff, assuming you time it right. And lastly, we have the Final Victor and Eternal Calculus, which can use the dragon and gain stacks while the character isn't attacking. Whew, geez, that was a lot of stuff. But we're not quite done yet, because we still have the character interactions. Thankfully, a lot of the characters can be grouped up, which makes my life a lot easier. Looking at my tier list, we have the Biz tier, or characters who greatly benefit from his overall kit or have something new enabled. Could use is as the name suggests, and you could use it, but it's not really optimal. While I got negative synergy and the bricked characters section, I do want to go over the Sunday users first, because it's really easy to cover. Here, I've put all the hyper carries who would benefit from Sunday's full skill. Yeah, that's really about it. Moving to the negative synergies, I've put all the HP scalers because they all want to get drained, which Dan Heng kinda stops. Next is the bricked characters, whose kit actively gets messed over or it just doesn't work. Starting with Shui Yi, as mentioned prior, the dragon currently does not grant her stacks for her follow-up. While Dan Heng is still likely her best in slot, it's still a shame it's not fully synergistic. Next up, Moza. Apparently, when you put a dragon on him and he leaves the field, the dragon kinda disappears. So yeah, there's that. Now, for the final bricked character, I have Argenti. Sadly, like Shui Yi, the dragon attack doesn't fully work with their kits. This is because Argenti's energy talent explicitly mentions when Argenti uses a basic, skill, or ult, with no mention of a follow-up attack. Okay, next to the could use. The first pair I've put here would be our follow-up attackers, March and Topaz, which the dragon would just grant additional stacks for the Shifu and give Numbi more action bands when it attacks. The next group is actually our breakers, which, while yes, I know it's not ideal, the dragon still does do toughness damage, so we're including them in there. And for our final group, it's, I don't know. I don't really know what to call them. Look, the dragon gets them stacks for their talent, okay? With that finished, we finally can get to the actual cool section, starting with Yanqing and Arlen. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen these two, but hey, strong shield, more motion value, and attack buff, very nice. Okay, but for real this time, the actual cool interactions. Well, we'll actually start with E1 Aglaya, which the dragon can now proc it, giving Aglaya an additional 20 energy every time it goes. This is similar to Tutorial's case, where the energy is just very valuable. After that, we got Fei Xiao, but primarily her E2, which follow-ups now give another Flying Oreo stack. While normally that's only 2 per rotation, with E2 Dan Heng, that does bump it up to 4. Back to the actual characters though, the first one is actually Acheron. As we've seen with my previous list, we know that the dragon can apply her signature light cone effect. Enough said. Next is Anaxa. As you know, Anaxa's talent states when he hits enemies, he will inflict 1 weakness per hit. As such, his skill with 5 total hits will implant 5 weaknesses. So what happens when you get an AoE multi-hit attack? Yeah, it implants every weakness on all enemies. The next character is Kafka, who, similar to Acheron, the Lycone they generally would use would greatly benefit from the dragon's additional hits, whether it's tutorial or even pain. Again, super consistent 1-turn rotations assuming you're playing it right. And yeah, that's the entire tier list. Wait, aren't we forgetting someone? Oh yeah, Phainon. While he is on the council, we however do not grant him the rank of master. Yeah, I kinda gotta put him in the Sunday tier. While yes, I know he's best in slot in his team and does grant him the damage percent trace via the shields, it's not as cool as what he provides for the other characters. Hopefully this changes in version 3, but as of version 2, it's not quite there yet. But yeah, now that's the entire video. I'd love to hear what y'all think about Dan Heng and his cool interactions, because I definitely see some potential. But also, I would like to hear how you would fix this kit, because I don't know, there's a lot of stuff you could probably do. As for channel updates, I do want to stream soon because of the relatively new Apocalyptic Shadow and Genshin Abyss, because I haven't quite tackled them yet. But first, I do need a fresh cut because I'm currently looking a bit chopped. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.